Okay, so here's our topic again, the importance of F&I in margin compression. Let's first talk about margin compression. What are the miscellany of factors that are impeding on our margin?
Well, here, dealers now, we're starting to advertise. We're really we're getting close to the race to the bottom again. So right now we've got to make it up in F&I and we've got to make it up in fixed operations. So there's more pressure now on F&I than ever before. COVID era hangover is gone. We're starting to sell cars again. The front ends are shrinking. There's more pressure on F&I to make it up like never before. So for me, I'm excited about that because that helps my business, right? So there's a big need right now, training, coaching, mentorship to make sure our dealers are selling the appropriate F&I products to get the customer happily engaged in the service department so they can come back and buy another vehicle. So that's our focus.
Yeah, he has definitely set the tone correctly. I'll take it one step further and say that now that if we look back in time and said, okay, what did it feel like before COVID? Because we all were superheroes during COVID from a growth perspective, right? But before COVID, F&I was a very important piece, right? It's where you picked up the lack of a deal not producing what it should on the front. I think the difference is, and what we got to pay very close attention to now, is we have a whole lot more competition on the F&I front. We are definitely seeing it. We're seeing credit unions come in with a whole different tactic. Hey, I'm going to give you that rate that nobody else has got, but you're buying my products. And they can approach it totally different than we can. And so, he sends a deal back to F&I. Next thing you know, it's going OSF. And now he has a whole different thought about would I've ever sent that deal to F&I. So I think communication through the F&I process has to be top of mind with the entire team and the flow of the deal.
Yeah, and I think you guys are both absolutely right on those points, but something that we also need to focus on is the type of products that we're offering to consumers, right? So because we have this increase in competition, we have to start meeting the customer where the customer is at. And how we are presenting these products, the communication piece of that to the consumer is just as important, because we need to not only have the training and mentorship for our F&I managers to go out and sell the products, but they need to explain the products in the way to a customer that they understand the value. I think value is one of the things that consumers are concerned about the most right now, is are they actually getting something worthwhile? And that all comes down to training, communication, and how we present products as a whole.
I'd like to piggyback off that real quick, because let's talk about profitability. So when it comes to having the right suite of products, you're right. I think over time, we kind of get complacent and we don't kind of look at our product suite. What's new? Are we offering the right products that the consumers truly want to buy? Because this is what I believe. For anybody in automotive here in this room, today in this environment, consumers want to buy products. They want to buy them. They just don't want to be sold. No customer wants to leave unprotected, period. That's just fact. What I will say, though, that's really important is making sure these F&I products are reserved appropriately. Dealers, there's no secret, we build wealth in our profit share programs, right? So if we don't have the right products and they're not reserved properly, so we're picking up as much profit on the backside as possible, that's a problem. So we need to make sure that we have the right products, but these products have to be reserved appropriately to make it work for the dealer.
Yeah, there's some reinsurance programs right now that are not performing, and it is scaring some small cap, medium cap dealers and dealer groups in a very, very big way.
Agreed.
I think it all comes down to alignment, right? So we're talking about having the right people in the right roles, making sure they have the right tools, training, mentorship, making sure we have the right product with the right reserve. All of those things have to be in alignment for us to be able to build that wealth in our profit share and to actually make up what we're not getting on the front end. So F&I truly has become the backbone of your variable side. So if we're not putting the emphasis on it and making sure all those things are in alignment, we're not going to be hitting those numbers and we're not going to be able to continue to see growth down the line.
What's your first look at discovery that things are not in alignment?
Numbers. Data never lies, right? So if we're looking at our numbers over the month and looking at each deal, are we seeing an average gross, or is it that some numbers are way lower and some higher? That's when you need to start looking at the data and looking at your personnel and asking. It goes back to that key of communication. what products are working, what aren't. I think sometimes when we look at it from such a high level, we just see the numbers, but we aren't asking the questions. And when we talk to our staff and we talk to the actual customers of, it's kind of like an exit poll when they walk out of F&I. Were you happy with everything? What products did you buy? Why did you see the value in that? Why are we scared to ask customers what they bought and what they didn't? It's so easy for a dealer to say to a customer when they walk out, thanks for coming, we appreciate your purchase, it means the world to us, etc. But why not ask them what they actually purchased and what they see value in? Because that helps us, and we want to make sure that our customers walk out the door happy, feeling like they didn't have the wool pulled over their eyes, and they're walking out feeling like they got a great deal with a ton of value in it. So we only learn how to get there by having that communication with our personnel and with your customers.
Yeah, from my perspective, look at your 30, 60, 90-day chargebacks, right? Because that is truly where the rubber meets the road and really kind of supports exactly everything she was saying from a compliance role, right? Because, when that customer wakes up 2 weeks later, 10 days later, 30 days later, 60 days later, and says, oh my gosh, why'd I buy all this stuff? I don't need it. I don't understand it. Right at the same time, the credit union's knocking on the door. And what keeps me up at night right now, I'm telling you, regardless of what side of the administration that you're on, from a political view, we know one thing's for sure, rates are coming down. Well, how many of us in the room work at stores that, hey, Ford Credit does a great job buying deep, but their rate is on average 8%, okay? Same thing with GMF. So what does that look like when rates do drop 2 or 3% and the credit unions really do have an incredible message? Well, I promise you we're going to be looking at record chargebacks. And the only thing that's going to prevent some of that is the connective tissue of what we did in the F&I offices, making sure that they understood that policy, that wheel and tire, that key windshield, that maintenance program, that sort of thing, and how it's backed and how it's deployed in your store, that they're going to want to keep that when they go to refinance. We have really got to think deeper now than ever before, because we do have some amazing headwinds coming.
And I'll say, let me piggyback on that too. So to make that happen, it's consistent training and it's consistent communication with the desk. I get dealers ask me all the time, Adam, what is the quickest way to raise PVR? And it's an easy question for me to answer, is to increase the communication with the desk and F&I. If desk, back in the day when I started, it was a division. I wrote a book, and the third chapter is about the prima donna. And some people that have worked with some F&I people back in the day, they didn't want to get out of their office. They waited for deals to be served to them, and that's the old way.
They still exist, Adam.
It does. It's
not back in the day.
Paul and I see it every week. But it's the old playbook. Yeah. Like we were talking about this morning, it's the old playbook. So if we can increase communication with the desk and become one, because at the end of the day, if you're a porter all the way to a dealer principal, we sell and service cars and help people. That's all we do. We sell cars, we service cars, and we serve people. That's what we do. So we have to get out of our way sometimes, even as salespeople, F&I people, doesn't matter. We all have a unique role within the store, and it all comes to one end, and that's to sell and service a vehicle. And getting F&I people out of their own way, because there is still some prima donna syndrome. And I'll close the loop on this. It's that process that's got to be written and dialed in, and it's the accountability measure that hovers over the process that allows the result. The dealers that are lackadaisical on their process and they're not holding anybody accountable, it's a free-for-all. There's compliance issues left and right. Customers aren't knowing what they're purchasing. They're coming back for chargebacks, and as dealers, we can't have that.
I was going to say, don't sugarcoat it. How do you guys really feel? You've touched on a couple of things. Actually, the three of you have touched on a common thread, which I think is fascinating. Our human nature tends to want to attack what we believe is the top level issue, which is margin compression. Each one of you have brought up a very similar organizational element, which is not just communication, meaningful communication. And what stuns me is that this day and age, when we have the most abundant access to communication platforms, that our level of communication has actually declined. And when you look at this organizationally, in now a society that's so used to messaging through instant message and iMessage and WhatsApp, everything we say now is in bullet point context. went to store, bought food, coming home. That is actually translating into organizations when you see the level of context that goes missing inside of dealerships. And so I think, isn't it fascinating that we are now talking about what's impacting margin compression and what we can do to solve it? Training, which is communication. You've brought up communication interdepartmentally. You've brought up communication now. If your organization is observed to not be communicating effectively, what do you suggest we consider to get people on board?
So I'll roll with that one first. First of all, we can never forget that pay plan dictates behavior. Okay, so what does your pay plan look like? What are you asking for in your pay plan? And are you getting what you're asking for and you're upset about it? You've got to really reflect on that yourself, first from that regard. The other thing is you've got to realize that the other side of the discussion, if we had some F&I practitioners up here with us, they'd say, hey, guys, do you really realize the pressure that we're under today versus what it felt like during COVID, and it was easier even before COVID? So, making sure that you teach the F&I practitioners to do it the same way every single time. The only way you know if your approach is working correctly is you've got to look at game film. You've got to look at the 75 spins at the end of the month, and you've got to be able to say, I approached them the same way every single time. What happens with an F&I guy or gal is they get behind the 8 ball and they start making shortcuts. They start trying to recreate the wheel, or they start trying to work an inferior pay plan that you built, that you haven't changed in a long time, and then all of a sudden the wheels of communication start becoming unbalanced. So first, go back and look at your pay plan. 2, try to lower the stress in your store by encouraging consistency. And make sure that everybody is linked together. The more your desk and F&I are paid off of a similar pay plan, the less strife you're going to have in your store, the more unity that you're going to see.
I'll say that I'm going to talk leader. I agree with everything you just said. I want to piggyback off that with some leadership principles. I think it's important that the entire organization has their mission, vision, and core values dialed in. Everybody has to believe in the foundation, okay? And I believe in the one-on-ones and the pouring into people and intimately connecting, team building, getting people out. And not just taking, 1988 said, let's go to the bar. Maybe 95, hell, 2002, I think that was the case. You don't take the staff to the bar. You do fun events together. You get people, you get spouses involved and family involved. You intimately connect with your people and make them feel special, and then they will help build it together. That's the key. And I think a lot of us, not in this room, because I know this room, we're all like-minded. I mean, we are, like they said earlier, we are the 5%ers, the 1%ers. But there are dealers out there that are so complacent and they don't invest in leadership. So there's nobody following anyone. And that's where we struggle. I think the one-on-ones, the intimate connecting with everybody, building everybody together, sharing the same vision, mission, and core values, and practicing those on a daily basis is what brings the store together.
Yeah, and just to close it out, it's more of, you look at stores that say, oh, we're margin focused or we're volume focused. But at the end of the day, we have to be people focused. And that means being focused on our people and their families. At the end of the day, our pay plan is structured for them to go home and take care of their families, right? So if we're not taking care of those very basic needs of our employees on a daily basis, then they're not going to turn around and want to do the work. They're going to create those shortcuts. They're going to do the quickest, easiest way to get through the deal. But if we show them that this is a great place to work and they show up and want to be there every day, that's because we have taken the time to make sure they have the mentorship they need. We're not throwing something at them and saying, figure it out. It's taking the time with your people, making them feel appreciated, making them feel like they own that F&I office. That is their department. I'm not coming in as a dealer and saying, wait a second, you got to change all this and do it your way. I'm coming in and asking, what's the best way you would do it? How would you take this challenge head on, and how would you make it better? So giving back some of that ownership to your employees, I think, is super important, because in turn, they're going to turn around and focus on the people in front of them, which is your customer. So at the end of the day, I think it comes down to culture. It's about making it a great place to work. Look at your turnover. If your turnover is super high, you probably don't have your culture nailed down and you're not doing something right. So,
Okay. Who thought it was going to go in this direction? Isn't this interesting that all roads lead to people? Like we didn't plan that it was going to go in this direction.
we didn't plan anything.
It's like there is an alternate meaning to F&I. Maybe it's the importance of freedom and integrity in margin compression. How do we help our people? How do we empower our people to feel free, empowered, and maintain integrity in every interaction that they have with the guest? There's a throughput here. If your people are empowered, right? And they're the ones that are going to take care of the customers. I don't see anything that actually compresses margins more than unmotivated, unhappy people. And you might argue, well, hey, I'm the leader. It's not my responsibility to make people happy. I agree. It is, however, your responsibility to create an environment in which happiness can exist.
Yeah, and I think if we just circle back around with this whole discussion, if we know the front end, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is under massive, massive compression. And we know that F&I, without F&I, most of us are print and red ink, right? In fact, if you look at most statements, the F&I profit is typically the same number as the profit of the statement in a lot of cases, okay? So all we're discussing here is how to make it real, right? How do we do more production with less stress and make sure it stays? That's all it is, right? And so if you just set those bumpers in place, then your pay plan's going to talk to you. How you're communicating from the desk to the F&I and back and forth. All of that stuff's going to start looking a whole lot more clear for you from that regard. But my prayer for everybody is that we focus on F&I, not just from a salesmanship and compliance standpoint, but whatever we put on the books today, make sure it's real. Because I'm telling you, we've got unique headwinds coming, and we're going to need that gross to be real.
I want to make a statement. So, Paul and I, we have a statement in our agency. It's important to sell a car today, but it's more important to sell a car tomorrow. And how do we do that? See, F&I, when I was trained in F&I back in the day, I had fancy word tracks and scripts that I had to memorize, and my trainer hadn't spun a deal in 20 years, and I had to listen to this guy, right? So we never were trained on servant leadership. Now we are, but back then we weren't trained on servant leadership, and we sure as hell weren't trained on retention. How many F&I people in the world truly commit to training on retention? Because the F&I professional is one of the last managers that our client sees. And I'll tell you, if we do it right, that customer gets happily engaged in service. When I was doing F&I, my customers didn't come back asking for salespeople. They came back asking for me. I sold 20 cars a month as an F&I professional because I served and loved my people. When they came into the service department, I'd come give them hugs. I'd sit down with them. I would talk with them. As a matter of fact, too, you want to win a GM or a dealer over, you want to win over your sales manager, have somebody out on a test drive before your sales manager shows up to work because you showed up early, you sat in service, made relationships. It is a relationship business. And F&I, we play a very, very critical role, and I'm extremely proud of who we are in the F&I space. It's about retention. That's the name of the game.
Yeah, just to add to that, it comes back to, taking care of the customer. And if the F&I manager, the prima donnas, so to speak, are not getting up and getting out of their office and meeting that customer prior to them coming in, you're already losing. The F&I managers should be going up and having a conversation with the customer beforehand, introducing themselves, saying, I'm going to be the one taking care of you today. We're going to take care of all of your paperwork. Any final questions you have, I'm your guy. And then from there, you should be having a discussion with them, because then you can go back and build that menu of products because you already know what the customer is talking about, what they need, what they do for a living. All of those things need to come into place beforehand. And if we're not getting up out of the box and going and talking to the customer beforehand, then that retention goes out the window. They'll buy a car from anyone at their next purchase. Why would they come back here for service? If they don't feel that we truly care about them before we sign the paperwork and close the deal, then what are we really doing here? At the end of the day, our people need to understand that the people in front of them are making a huge decision. They're putting their trust in us, and we need to make them feel that we truly care about them and we only want the best for them.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you a nugget off of what you just said. So you've got a perfect credit customer. They're sitting out there, and the process is to go out there and say hi to the customer before you bring them back to the office. So what do you say? They got perfect credit. They're putting 20% down. What discussion are you really going to go out? It's easy when they got bad credit, right? Or marginal credit. So here's my nugget for you. Are you ready? So, Mr. Customer, I'm so glad you're here. I'm Alan. I'll be taking care of your financing needs today. I know she had a trade-in, and I'm going to help you cancel the extended warranty on your trade-in so you get some money back. So I just need some basic information on who that lender was and make sure that you haven't refinanced it and the Twix isn't matching up right, because I want to help you get some money back on that extended warranty on your trade. And I'm telling you, every single time, they're going to give you the Labrador Retriever. They're going to look. They're going to not say anything. They're kind of confused because you're an F&I guy trying to give them some money. They're going to look at the wife and say, hey, did we buy a warranty on that? So you're now having a warranty discussion with somebody, all because you went out with kindness and said, I'm going to help you cancel the warranty on your trade-in so you can get some money back. You don't know if they bought a warranty, but you just had a warranty discussion because you went out there. First of all, you held the line with the process, meet and greet before you bring them to the office. And two, you try to give them love and you try to give them a nugget up front. And honestly, if they do have a warranty, you are going to help them. You're going to give them an odometer statement. You're going to help them with that paperwork. But what I'm getting at is find a creative way to make someone feel like you're there to serve them, not drain them. Does that make sense?
I love that guy. Do we got time? Because I got a real quick piggyback off this.
Give me one more and then I'll jump in.
So that's brilliant, by the way. I love it. So one more nugget. Can I throw a nugget? You cool with it? All right. So if an F&I professional can meet the retail consumer before they agree to transact, meaning get out of your ivory tower and just meet somebody on the showroom floor, it could be as simple as this. How you doing? I'm Adam, and you are?
Alan Brown.
Alan, really nice to meet you. I'm Adam Marburger. I'm one of the finance managers here. In the event that you purchase from us, I'm the one that just takes care of all the legal paperwork. I found that some customers have some questions. I'm the one that answers those questions. My office is over here. I have an open door policy. Can I get you something to drink while you're waiting on your sales associate? Great. I'll go get that. And I really hope I get to see you again later. Very nice meeting you. So boom. So now I'm going to bounce. Okay? Now we're going to pretend he agreed to transact. He's buying his new Bentley. All right? So now I'm rolling back out and I'm saying, hey, it's me again. It's me again, right? I already met. I wanted to make a good first impression. That's all I wanted. All I care about is making a good first impression. So now it's me again. I was hoping I would see you again. Hey, do you mind if I have a seat at the table with you real quick? So now I'm going to invite myself to have a seat. First impressions handled. Now we can have not a customer interview. I don't call them customer interviews. It's a casual conversation. Now I can have a nice conversation with you. So anyway, I just want to share that. It works brilliantly.
Has anyone ever told you should do training for a living?
Just a few people.
Listen, we are all out of time. This has been a delight. Ellena, thank you. You shared, as a recap, you shared about the importance of paying attention, which I think is so critical, and creating packages and products that in an anticipatory fashion. If I already know what people are looking for, it is so much easier. You counseled us on the importance of preparing for those headwinds, which ties directly into knowing what people are going to buy before they buy it. And you spoke to us about the importance, Adam, of training your people and empowering them. And that was the thread that ran through this entire panel. Ellena, Alan, Adam, thank you so much for joining us. Please help me in saying thank you to our panelists.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.